Good morning, everyone. Today we will study Chapter 2 Microorganisms, Friend and Foe. In this chapter, we will study what are microorganisms. As the name of the chapter is Microorganisms, Friend and Foe, so we will see that how microorganisms are beneficial for us, and in some way, microorganisms are harmful to us. So we will see it. Okay, so let's start the chapter. Microorganisms. Apart from plants and animals, there are other living organisms around us which we cannot see with the naked eyes. These organisms are known as microorganisms. So, as you can see the name microorganisms. So, micro means something so small which cannot be seen with the naked eyes. Okay, so that's why microorganisms are the living organisms which cannot be seen with the naked eyes. They can be seen with the help of the microscope, and some microorganisms can be seen with the help of the magnifying glass. The branch of the science that deals with the study of microorganisms is known as microbiology. Based on a number of studies, microorganisms have been divided into various groups. So let's start it. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, protozoa and algae. We will study all these groups in detail one by one. First is the habitat of microorganisms. That means where we can find these microorganisms. Microorganisms are present everywhere around us. Okay, they can survive under all type of environments ranging from ice, cold climate to hot springs. That means they are found in the cold climate also. That means ice cold climate means very cold climate, and in hot springs also. And they are found in the deserts to marshy lands. That means they are found in deserts also and the marshy lands. So microorganisms are present everywhere around us. Okay, these microorganisms are present in air, water and soil also. These microorganisms are also found inside the bodies of the animals. Yes, the microorganisms, they are found inside the bodies of animals, including humans also. These microorganisms may be found living singularly or in colonies. Okay, some microorganisms, they can live alone. For example, amoeba. And some microorganisms, they live in the groups, or we can say they live in the colonies. Okay, for example, fungi, bacteria. So now let's start these different types of microorganisms in detail. First, we'll start with the viruses. Viruses are microscopic organisms. They are even smaller than the bacteria. Bacteria are also very small, and the viruses are even smaller than the bacteria. Viruses, we can say that viruses are living also and non-living also. Why? Because they are seen as the crystalline structures outside the host body. Okay, till the time they are outside the host body, viruses are non-living. But once they are inside the host body, they are living and they start reproducing rapidly. Okay, so till the time viruses are outside the host body, they are non-living. The moment the viruses enters the host body, so they start behaving like living organisms and they start reproducing themselves very fast. If we talk about the structure of the viruses, the viral body consists of a nuclear core having DNA or RNA surrounded by a protein coat known as capsid. Okay, if we talk about a simple structure of the virus, then it consists of a nuclear core. That means in which there is one nuclear core inside which the genetic material is found. It can be DNA or RNA. In the viruses, the genetic material will be either DNA or RNA, not both. And the genetic material, either DNA or RNA, it is protected by a covering, or we can say by a coat of protein, which is known as the capsid. If we talk about the harmful effects of viruses, we all know that viruses, they can cause harmful diseases in the humans, animals and plants also. Okay, so we will see it. The viruses, they can cause a number of diseases in the humans like common cold, polio, AIDS, etc. We will see the structures of some viruses so that we will have some better understanding about the viruses. This is the HIV virus structure. HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. As very clear from the name, human immunodeficiency, so this virus, it impacts the immune system of the human and it weakens the immune system of the person whom it affects. So if we see the structure here, you can see this is the genetic material, RNA. Wait, let me zoom it. Here you can see that in this structure, these are the RNA. There are 2 strands of RNA in HIV virus. And this is the coating of the protein. I told you in the virus, genetic material is protected by a coating of the protein, which is known as capsid. Okay, and here you can see there is one more layer of the protein, which is called matrix. And these are the spikes. These are the spikes of HIV virus. They are made up of glycoproteins. So now we will see that viruses, they not only affect humans, they can cause diseases in the plants also. Okay, like tobacco mosaic disease in the tobacco plant, maize dwarf mosaic in the maize plant. So these are the some diseases that are caused by the viruses. If we talk about the structure of the tobacco mosaic virus, here you can see that this is the RNA's genetic material here, and it has been covered by the protein coating. You can see here the similar proteins, they are arranged together, which is making a coat, okay, around this RNA. And the viruses, they can also cause diseases in the animals. For example, foot and mouth disease of the cattle, pigs and hoofed animals. Okay, so this foot and mouth disease is caused by the viruses in the cattle, pigs and the hoofed animals. And there are many other diseases which are caused by the viruses in the animals. Viruses, they can infect bacteria also. Yes, it's true. So the viruses that can infect bacteria, they are known as bacteriophage. Okay, so the viruses that infect bacteria are known as bacteriophage. This is the structure of the bacteriophage. Here you can see that there is this here in case of bacteriophage, the genetic material is DNA. Okay, you can see this is the genetic material of the bacteriophage and it is DNA. Okay, here you can see that this is the helical sheath. Okay, inside which there is one hollow tube through which the DNA, this genetic material, it will pass on to the bottom. Okay, these are the tail fibers which help in the attachment to the host cell. Now we will see the positive side of the virus. How virus it can be helpful to us. Okay, so the vaccines, they are produced from the virus for the various diseases like polio, smallpox, chickenpox. Now what is vaccine? Vaccine is given so as to strengthen the immunity of the body against a specific disease. Okay, now let us try to understand this in detail, how our vaccine works. Whenever a disease carrying microbe, it enters the body, so body will react. How body will react? It will produce antibodies so as to fight with that microbe. And once these antibodies have been produced in the body, they will stay there in the body. And our body remembers that if the same microbe, if it enters our body again, how to fight with that. Okay, so these antibodies which has been produced, once they will stay there in the body, and if next time the same microbe, if it enters the body will fight with the antibodies and will kill the microbes, and we will not fall ill. So this phenomena is utilized to develop the vaccines. So actually, what is there in a vaccine? A dead or weak disease causing microbe, it is given orally, that means through mouth, or injected in order to develop antibodies in the body. So what happens when any dead or weak virus, it is injected in the body? So our body thinks that any microbe has entered, so it starts developing antibodies so as to fight with that. So in this way antibodies get prepared in our body, and next time when the same microbe, this live microbe will enter inside our body, our body will fight strongly because the antibodies have been produced, okay, and will protect us from the disease. So these dead or weakened microbes constitute a vaccine. So this was all about how a vaccine works. Next is the bacteria. Bacteria are also microorganisms. They are unicellular organisms and they are found everywhere around us. You can see here, as for constructing any building or home, we need bricks. So bricks are the building blocks of any building. In the same way, the cells are the building blocks of the living organisms. So the bacteria, they are unicellular. That means bacteria, they have only one cell. The bacteria are made up of one cell. If we talk about the size of the bacteria, it's very small. It varies from 0.15 micrometer to 1.5 micrometer. If we talk about the nutrition of the bacteria, bacteria may be saprophytic or parasitic. Okay, so the bacteria, they cannot prepare their food on their own. They are dependent on the others for their food. So the mode of the nutrition for them is saprophytic or parasitic. Saprophytic means they feed on the dead and decaying matter. Parasitic means they live inside the body of the other animal and derive its food from that. Shape, they are found in the variety of shapes, as you can see here in this image. The bacteria, they are found in the various shapes. It can be spherical, rod shaped, they can be spiral shaped and coma shaped. You can see here the several shapes of the bacteria. How do bacteria reproduce? They reproduce by the process of the binary fission. Binary means two and fission means to divide. So what happens, as I told you, bacteria are the unicellular organisms. They reproduce by the process of binary fission. So the cell, it gets divided into the two cells. As you can see here, this is the one cell. So the cell has got divided into the two similar cells. Next is the beneficial bacteria. We know that bacteria, they are beneficial for us in some ways. We will see it, how they are beneficial for us. Making of curd and cheese. Curd contain bacterium known as lactobacillus. Okay, so inside the curd, this lactobacillus bacteria remains present. So when we want to make the curd, what we do? We take some warm milk and inside that we add at least 1 spoon of the curd. So when we add this curd in the warm milk, so what happens? The lactobacillus bacteria present in the curd, it starts multiplying in the milk and it converts the milk to the curd. So the bacteria, lactobacillus bacteria, it helps in converting the milk to the curd. In the same way, bacteria, they are also helpful in the production of the cheese. Next is decomposition. We know that some bacteria, they feed on the dead and decaying matter and convert that dead and decaying matter into the simple compounds known as humus, which is very good for the plants. The humus, it increases the fertility of the soil. Next is nitrification. But before understanding nitrification, first see nitrogen fixation. The nitrogen gas present in the atmosphere, it cannot be directly utilized by the plants. So it needs to be converted into some useful nitrogen compounds that can be utilized by the plants. This process of converting the nitrogen into some useful nitrogen compound so that it can be used by the plants is known as nitrogen fixation. Bacteria Rhizobium bacteria present in the root nodules of the leguminous plants have the capability to convert the nitrogen gas into the nitrates that can be utilized by the plants. Next is the nitrification. Proteins from the dead and decaying matter is first converted into ammonia by the ammonifying bacteria and then it gets converted into the nitrates by the nitrifying bacteria. And these nitrates, they can be used by the plants for making the proteins. So we can see here that bacteria, they are very useful in this process of nitrogen fixation and in the nitrification process. These terms, nitrification and nitrogen fixation, these will be more clear when we will discuss nitrogen cycle in the end of this chapter. Next is production of the antibiotics. What are antibiotics? Antibiotics are the chemicals which kill or stop the growth of the disease-causing microorganisms. The antibiotics, they are manufactured by growing specific microorganisms and are used to cure a number of diseases. Nowadays, a number of antibiotics, they are being produced by bacteria. And antibiotics, they are even given to the animals so as to prevent the microbial infection in the animals. And these antibiotics, they are also used to cure lot many plant diseases. Next is the vaccine production. As we studied the when we studied the concept how a vaccine works, so I told you that dead or weakened microbes, they are injected in the body, okay, so that body will start fighting to them by producing the antibodies. Okay, so the several vaccines for the diseases such as cholera, tuberculosis, etc., they are being produced by the bacteria. Bacteria are also used, they are also used in the production of the vinegar. Next is biogas production. Animals and the plant waste, it is decomposed by the bacteria so as to obtain the biogas on a commercial scale. Next is the retting of the fibers. Some bacteria, they help in the retting of the jute and flax fibers. They are the natural plant fibers, so that they can be converted into the ropes. So these were some beneficial effects of the bacteria. Now we will study the harmful effects of the bacteria. Bacteria that grow on our food, they sometimes produce the toxic substances. They release the toxic substances in the food, because of which the food gets spoiled. And if we eat such contaminated food or spoiled food, then it can result in the diseases. Okay. Next is the bacteria. They can also result in the souring of milk, rotting of meat, fruits and other eatables and spoil them. Bacteria, they can cause diseases in humans. Several diseases such as tuberculosis, cholera, typhoid, these are the diseases that are caused by the bacteria. Bacteria, they can cause disease in the plants also, like fire blight of apple, leaf spots disease in tomato plants. They are the bacterial diseases that are the bacterial diseases in the plants. Bacteria can cause diseases in animals also. For example, bovine disease in cattle, salmonellosis in chicken and horse. These are some of the diseases caused in the animals by the bacteria. Here you can see that the leaf spot disease in the tomato plant. Okay, here this is not so clear. Here you can see some spots on the leaves of the tomato plant. Here these are the fruits that have been affected by the virus Xanthomonas axonopodes. It causes citrus canker. It causes citrus canker disease. So the bacteria, they can cause disease in the humans, in plants and in animals also. Now the next is the fungi. These are plant-like organisms. They have a cell wall. Okay. Cell wall means the boundary of the cell, the external membrane of the cell, but lacking chlorophyll. The fungi, they do not have chlorophyll, so they cannot synthesize their own food. That means they cannot make their own food. Now let's talk about the habitat. Where are they found? We know that the fungi, they are found in the dark, moist places and with the moderate temperature. So wherever there will be there will be more moisture and the temperature will be moderate. Okay, so the fungi will start growing. Structure, if we talk about the structure of the fungi may be unicellular or multicellular. For example, mushroom is multicellular and yeast is unicellular. Here you can see that this is penicillium fungi and this is the bread mold. These are the two various types of fungi. If we talk about the nutrition, they are heterotrophs. As I told you, they cannot make their own food. Heterotrophs means they are dependent on others for their food. They can be parasitic. That means they will derive their food from the host body. They will live inside another organism and derive its food from that. And they can be saprophytic also. Saprophytic means they will feed on the dead and decaying matter. Reproduction, how do they reproduce? Fungi reproduce by budding or spore formation. Okay, budding means what will happen in case of let me explain. These are some different form of the fungi, like this is mushroom, mold and this is the yeast. So budding, how do they reproduce? By budding. So what happens when the yeast wants to reproduce? A bud-like structure will be developed on the yeast. This bud-like structure will start growing, and when it will fully grow, it will separate out from the parent yeast. So like this, they can grow by the budding. And if we talk about the spore formation, here as you can see in case of the bread mold, there you can see there are the bag like structures inside which there are spores. Okay, so when these bag like structures, they will, after maturing, they will burst. So these spores, they will get spread in the air, and wherever these spores, they will get the favorable conditions for their growth, they will start growing on that particular thing. Here you can see that this bread, it has got spoiled by the fungi. If you take any piece of bread, and if you leave it as it is outside the refrigerator, if you do not refrigerate it, so what will happen? It will get spoiled by the fungi. You will see that after 6 to 7 days you will see such kind of structure on this bread. This is fungi. But here you can see that if we keep the same bread, if we keep a piece of bread in the refrigerator, then it will not get spoiled, because in the refrigerator the temperature is low, and we know that fungi needs warm temperature and the moisture for its growth. But in the refrigerator, temperature is low, so our food, it remains safe, it doesn't get spoiled. Next is how the fungi is beneficial for us. Fungi, it is used in the bakeries and the breweries. So fungi, it is used in the bakeries, and it is also used for making the beverages like alcohol, wine, etc. So how we use the fungi in the bakeries? Fungi like yeast, okay, it undergoes anaerobic respiration. This process of anaerobic respiration is known as fermentation. Anaerobic respiration means the respiration in the absence of the oxygen. So during this process of fermentation, yeast, it converts the glucose in the alcohol and the CO2. And the CO2 means carbon dioxide. It causes the dough to rise. Okay, in case of the bread and for making the idlis, when we prepare the dough and when the yeast powder is added to that, so what happens? When this yeast, it starts respiring, CO2 is carbon dioxide is produced, because of which the dough got rise and its volume increases. So this is the concept. On the basis of this concept, yeast is largely, it is used for making the cakes, pastries, dokla, etc. Yeast makes these things fluffy and soft. And as I told you, fungi is also used for making the various types of beverages like wine, alcohol, etc. Fungi, it is also used for preparing cheese. Several species of the penicillium are used for making various types of cheese. Fungi, they are also used for producing the organic acids. Vitamins. Yeast is a very good source of vitamin B. Production of the antibiotics. Some antibiotics, they are produced from the fungi also. Next is the harmful effect of the fungi. As I just showed you this picture, that fungi, whenever they get the warm and the moist, whenever they get the favorable conditions for their growth, they start growing on the food items, and they spoil the food items. And the fungi, it can spoil the leather products also. As I told you, that fungi, it will spoil the food items or the leather products whenever they will get the favorable conditions for their growth. Okay, as I gave you the example, if you will keep the food items in the refrigerator, then the temperature is low, then that's why our food doesn't get spoiled in the refrigerator. But when we keep it outside, let's say in the summer season, if we do not keep our food items in the refrigerator for 1 or 2 days, you will notice that the food starts spoiling. Okay, so the fungi, it can spoil food also, it can spoil leather products also in the moderate temperature and the high humidity. Next is, a number of diseases are also caused by the fungi in the humans. Okay, as you can see here, this is the ringworm disease, skin infection, athlete foot. These are the diseases that has been caused by the fungi. These are the diseases caused by the fungi in the human, or we can say the fungal diseases. Fungi, they can also cause diseases in the plants. For example, potato blight and the leaf rust. These are the diseases that are caused in the plants by the fungi. And the fungi, it can also cause diseases in the animals. So this was all about fungi. Next is algae. Algae are primitive simple plants. They contain chlorophyll. Okay, because they contain chlorophyll, so they can make their own food. They are popularly known as seaweeds. Algae have a thalloid body instead of two roots, stems and leaves. Thalloid body means the body of the algae, it is not differentiated into the roots, stems and the leaves. Based on the type of the pigment present, algae are defined, they are classified into the various classes like green algae, blue-green algae, brown algae, red algae, golden brown algae. So these names, the algae have been classified on the basis of the type of pigment present in them. As we know that algae, they have chlorophyll, so they can make their own food by the process of photosynthesis, so they are autotrophic. Autotrophic means they can make their food on their own. Now we will see how algae is beneficial for us. Blue-green algae such as nostoc has the ability to convert the atmospheric nitrogen into the useful nitrogenous compound so that they can be absorbed by the plants. So it acts as fertilizer. Various fish and the aquatic animals, they feed on algae, food for humans. Various types of algae, they are also used as the food items. For example, various brown algae and the seaweeds, they are used as the food items in various countries like Japan. Algae, they are a rich source of vitamins and minerals also. Algae are also used in the industries. For example, algin. Algin is a type of carbohydrates found in the brown seaweeds. It is used for preparing ice cream. Next is agar agar. It is a jelly-like substance that is obtained from red algae. It is used in the production of the jellies, custards and cosmetics also. Several types of algae, they are also used as fodder for the sheep and cattle. Now we will see harmful effects of algae. When there is excess of nitrogen and phosphorus in the water bodies such as lakes, so algae starts reproducing very fast and form a green mat-like structure on the water bodies, because of which it limits the sunlight reaching the bottom of that water body, and it also results in the deficiency of the oxygen, which makes the conditions very difficult for the survival of the aquatic organisms present in that water body. Next is algae such as Oscillatoria. It produces toxins in the water, because of which water becomes unfit for the drinking. Now we will see protozoa. Protozoa are mostly unicellular organisms having animal-like characteristics. They are found in a variety of places such as pools, tanks, soil. They are also found inside the human bodies and animal bodies. If we talk about its size, then it varies from 2 to 200 microns. And the nutrition, all protozoa, they have heterotrophic mode of nutrition. That means they are dependent on others for their food, except Euglena. If we talk about the shapes, they are available in variety of shapes. If you see the amoeba, it has irregular shape. Okay, and if we talk about the paramecium, it has sleeper-like shape. They are available in variety of shapes. They reproduce by the binary fission, budding and spore formation. We all have seen what are these reproduction methods. How the protozoa are useful for us? Protozoa, they form an important link in the aquatic food chain. They feed on algae and in turn are eaten up by the larger aquatic organisms. Protozoa, they are found in the gut of ruminants. Ruminants are the animals like cow, buffalo, etc. Gut means stomach. Protozoa, they live in the gut of the ruminants, and they also help in the digestion of the cellulose. Cellulose is the complex carbohydrates. Next is harmful protozoa. How the protozoa can be harmful? Again, they will cause disease to us. So, various diseases in the humans are caused by the protozoa. For example, amoebic dysentery. Amoebic dysentery means it is the infection of the intestines that results in the severe diarrhea, sleeping sickness, and the malaria. Next is diseases in the animals. The protozoa, they also cause diseases in the animals. For example, trichomoniasis in the bird liver and coccidiosis in rabbit. So these are the name of the some diseases that are caused in the animals by the protozoa. Communicable diseases. What are the communicable diseases? The microbial diseases which can be transferred from an infected person to a healthy person. How? Through water, air, food, or physical contact. They are known as communicable diseases. For example, viral disease such as common cold. It is easily transferred by sneezing or coughing. For example, any person who is suffering from the common cold, if he sneezes, then what will happen? The fine droplets of the moisture, they will spread in the air that contains the virus. Okay, and any person who is near to that person, that will inhale that virus through the breathing. So in this way, due to the direct contact with any infected person also, these communicable diseases can spread, and it can also spread through the air. Insects such as flies, mosquitoes, etc., they are also the carriers of diseases, and they transfers microbes from an infected person to a healthy person. For example, Anopheles mosquito, they are a carrier of the malaria parasite. Okay, and they transfer it from the infected person to a healthy person. And Aedes mosquitoes, they are a carrier of dengue virus. Next is the food preservation. Food material has a tendency of getting spoiled by the microorganisms, and if we eat this spoiled food, then it will result in the food poisoning. Okay, so we need to preserve food in order to keep it fresh for a longer time. There are the various methods that can be used for the food preservation. Number one is preservation by common salt. Salt is used to preserve meat, fish, amla, raw mangoes, etc. Next is preservation by sugars. Sugar is used to preserve jams, jellies, because sugar, it reduces the moisture content and which prevents the growth of the bacteria which can spoil food. Next is the preservation by oil and vinegar. Vegetables, fruits, fish and meat, they are also preserved by this method, because bacteria, they cannot grow in such environment. Next is boiling. Boiling food items, it also kills the microbes present in them and keeps the food safe or fresh. Pasteurization. These boiling and pasteurization, these are the different methods. By mistake, it has been written together. Otherwise, these two are different. Next is pasteurization. Pasteurization, it is a method used to preserve milk. It was discovered by the Louis Pasteur. In this process, what is done? The milk is heated to about 70 degrees Celsius for the 50 to 30 seconds, and then suddenly it is cooled and stored. So the pasteurization, it is used to preserve the milk. It is a method to preserve milk. Canning. Cooked and sterilized food, it is packed in the airtight containers which keep it fresh and protects from the microbes. Next is chemical preservatives. The chemicals which prevent the microbial growth, they are known as the chemical preservatives. For example, sodium benzoate, sodium metabisulfate, these are some chemical preservatives which prevent the microbial growth and protect our food. So this was all about the food preservation. The last topic is the nitrogen cycle. The atmosphere contains 78% of nitrogen gas. The amount of nitrogen, it remains always constant in the atmosphere, and it happens because of the nitrogen cycle. Why nitrogen is so important? Because nitrogen is one of the essential constituent of all living organisms as a part of proteins, nucleic acids and vitamins, etc. But the nitrogen present in the atmosphere, it cannot be directly utilized by the plants and animals. So this need to be converted in some useful form. This process of converting the nitrogen into some useful nitrogen compounds so that it can be utilized by the plants is known as nitrogen fixation. We will see that nitrogen fixation it can occur in the three various ways. First is the nitrogen fixation by the rhizobium. Rhizobium bacterium, it lives in the root nodules of the leguminous plants. It lives in the symbiotic association with the root nodules of the leguminous plants. It gains the nutrition, this rhizobium bacteria, it gains the nutrition from the plants, and in return it converts the free atmospheric nitrogen into the usable form for the plants. Next is the nitrogen fixation by blue-green algae. Blue-green algae nostoc has the capability to fix nitrogen into usable form for the plant. Next is the nitrogen fixation by the lightning. During lightning, what happens? The nitrogen present in the atmosphere, it reacts with the oxygen to form nitrogen oxide, and this nitrogen oxide it reaches to the soil along with rainwater in form of the dilute nitric acid, where it will react with the alkali present in the soil and will form the nitrates, and these nitrates can be absorbed by the plants through the root system. And the plants, after absorbing the nitrates, the plants they convert these nitrates into, they use this nitrate to make proteins, and when the animals they feed on the plants, they get these nitrogen compounds. Next is ammonification. What happens when the animals or the plants they die? So the proteins present in the dead and the decaying plants and animal matter, it is converted into ammonia by the ammonifying bacteria. So listen it carefully. The proteins present in the dead and decaying plant and animal matter, it is converted into ammonia by the ammonifying bacteria. Then the nitrification happens. Then the nitrifying bacteria, it acts on this ammonia and converts that into the nitrites and the nitrates. Okay, now you can see these nitrates will be again absorbed by the plants. Okay, and some bacteria present in the soil, they have the capability to convert these nitrates into the atmospheric nitrogen. Let's try to understand it with the help of this diagram. This is atmospheric nitrogen present in the atmosphere by these method like blue-green algae, because of lightning and because of the rhizobium bacteria, the nitrogen fixation takes place. So what happens? The nitrogen present in the atmosphere, it is converted into some usable form it is converted into the usable nitrogenous compounds that can be used by the plants for making the proteins. So these compounds, these useful nitrogenous compounds, they are used by the plants. Okay, they are used by the plants to make proteins, and when the animals they eat, when the animals they feed on the plants, they also get the proteins. And when these animals or the plants they die, then the protein from the dead and decaying plant and animal matter is first converted into the ammonia, and then this ammonia is converted into the nitrates. It converted into nitrates by the nitrifying bacteria. So what happened? The proteins from the dead and decaying matter, it again went to the soil in form of the nitrates. Okay, some nitrates they will be again absorbed by the plants, and some nitrates they will be converted into the atmospheric nitrogen by the denitrifying bacteria. Denitrifying bacteria has the capability to convert nitrates into the free atmospheric nitrogen. So you saw that here with the help of this diagram, the amount of the nitrogen gas, it remains constant in the atmosphere. That's why the name is nitrogen cycle. Okay, because this cycle it helps, because of this the amount of the nitrogen gas it remains constant in the atmosphere. So this was all about this chapter. Thank you.